So in this segment, we're going to be talking about Labour actually offering some opposition here. And this isn't from Starmer, this is Annalise Dodds, who is the opposite number or counterpart to Rishi Sunak. She's the shadow Chancellor of the Exchequer, someone who needs a lot more stage presence because I don't think a lot of people actually know who she is. She's a relatively unknown. But here, I'm hoping that she actually gets some support from small businesses with this one, because she's pushing for changes to the loans that businesses had taken up during the pandemic. So firms face ruin once £71 billion loan repayments start, say Labour. So Rishi Sunak has warned he will crush companies if he insists on calling all bounce back loans from March. So this is about the loans businesses had to take due to the pandemic. So this is something we've covered before about how difficult it was to get a loan and things like that. We didn't look at interest rates because they weren't really talked about. So we're going to assume that interest rates are pretty low here. But it's not the interest rates that are the major issue. It's the actual repayments themselves. So Labour is struggling. Labour is urging the Chancellor, Rishi Sunak, so I have to add that in, it's compulsory now, to ease the burden of COVID-related debt on business, warning that hundreds of thousands of firms could go to the walls unless the government acts. The Shadow Chancellor Annalise Dodds said companies were facing the prospect from next month of having to start repaying the £71 billion in government-backed loans intended to nurse them through the pandemic. And also, what is not clear is that if these businesses will be allowed to reopen next month. Most likely they will be. I've read some reporting from the Mirror that makes it look like businesses will open in March. If we actually go to that tweet here. So from the 8th of March, adults could sit down for a cup of tea on a park bench with a friend. End of March, outdoor sports like golf and tennis. Early May to August, shops, pubs, restaurants could open. Reports of hospitality reopening from end of March seem optimistic. And so what that means is that if you're one of these businesses that has taken one of these loans because obviously you needed it to get through the pandemic, your business may not even be able to reopen by the time you have to pay back loans. So instead of you breaking even or whatever, the case, making small losses because of the pandemic and you haven't been able to open your business, you're looking at a situation where you're going to make further losses because this Conservative government want to bring back the money early. So Shadow Chancellor Annalise Dodds said companies I think we just covered that. She said Rishi Sunak's insistence that the loans were repaid on schedule risked crushing any prospects of recovery under a mountain of unsustainable debt. However, the Treasury said it has already taken steps to allow more flexible payment terms. So basically they're saying that they probably spread out the payments. They weren't specific in this article, which I'd wish the Guardian would do better here to actually find out what the government have said. But then you can make the same point. Perhaps I should also do that. So, touche Guardian, people defenders. Labour released analysis which it said showed that as many as 850,000 firms were at risk of closure over the next 3 months, with the potential loss of 2.4 million jobs. And if we actually look at this here, what we can see is that the UK unemployment is likely to reach 2.6 million by the middle of 2021, because that's obviously when the furlough scheme and stuff starts wrapping up. So if you think about it like this, we're talking 2.4 million jobs potentially going if small businesses close, right? And we say, if we're fair, we say some of these people go on to get other jobs and whatever, say about 1 million people unemployed, that's still a massive amount considering that we're talking about 2.6 million people predicted to be unemployed by this year. You're talking, if you add another million onto that, that's about 3.6 million. And right now we're looking at 7.5% of the working age population who are looking to be unemployed. If you add another million onto that, I'm bad at percentages, but you can just guess it's going to be very high. It may fall into, closer to the 10% number, which is about 1 in 10 people being unemployed, which is very difficult for an economy to sustain. So because the government is failing to help these businesses enough, and also calling back the loans early, what you can see is that these businesses will struggle. And that's just, say, 1 million out of the 2.4 million jobs that are being risked here. Imagine the whole 2.4 million. You're talking double the unemployment is now. You're talking about 14% unemployment. And I wonder what was if we look at the Great Recession here, we're talking 8%. So you're talking that if the government fails to support these small businesses, you're talking about higher than Great Depression levels of unemployment, which is just crazy, especially since we know this is avoidable. So Dodds called for the creation of a new British business recovery agency to manage loans made through the government's coronavirus business interpretation scheme, so as to secure firms' futures, including through employee ownership, which are, these are. That's a good idea. Employee ownership's a good idea. Having employees have shares within the business always incentivizes them to do, to work harder because they have a stake in the business. It's not just a wage they're getting or a salary. That, if they do well and the business improves, their share value goes up potentially. They can sell that to, back to the owner or back to, to someone else and make more money, if that makes sense. So I think these are some decent ideas here. She said the government should also convert the bounce back scheme into a student loan style arrangement, with firms only starting to make repayments once they start making money, so profit. Which again is another good idea. Labour would rebuild Britain by backing businesses and supporting families through the crisis, and then putting Britain on the path to growth, she said. The Chancellor simply offers a return to the same old policies that left the foundations of Britain's economy weakened before the crisis. His economically illiterate plans, that's a burn right there, to demand repayments next month, risk crushing British businesses and our recovery under a mountain of debt. And you need to make the point that some of these businesses that have taken on these loans won't even be able to open by the time repayments are up. You need to make that point. It would leave taxpayers on the hook for billions and other firms' cash strapped for years, leading to less investment and fewer jobs. The Treasury spokesman said, I need to do the voice. Our loan schemes have provided a lifeline to thousands of businesses across the UK, helping them survive the outbreak and protecting millions of jobs. But we know businesses need every pound to protect jobs rather than repaying loans, which is why in September we announced flexibility on the repayments for both bounce back loans and coronavirus business interruption loan schemes. For bounce back loans, that now means businesses can choose to make no payments on their bounce back loans until 18 months after they originally took them out. But the thing is, right, say for example, I don't know when these loans were originally handed out, but we say they took them last April, right? You're talking about a year, so we're in this year's April. You're talking, let's do the maths here. So April, May, June, July, August, September, October. You're talking October that these loans will all have to be repaid. And the thing is, if these businesses are too busy paying back the loans, then what that means is that they're not going to be able to invest within their business or give staff more hours and expand their small businesses or medium, SME, small, medium enterprises. And that's going to impact the economy negatively as well. So I think the best thing to do is a student loan scheme is a good idea, but I would have given this money out as a grant rather than as a loan. So that they wouldn't have to be paid back on the proviso that the money stays within the business and doesn't go out into the owner. How you'd monitor that, I'm not 100% sure. But what you can tell is if the business goes bankrupt whilst we're in a pandemic and whilst they still have, whilst they've taken those loans, then something dodgy has happened there and they should be prosecuted under the mythical system I would create. Which may not be the best system, but I feel like it's better than giving these businesses a lot of money in loans with potentially with interest. Which is going to hamper them for a long time, especially when a lot of the lockdowns weren't the fault of small businesses. It was mainly down to an incompetent government, and so I think that doing a grant scheme would make way more sense, especially since I doubt a lot of this money will be paid back. You're talking about £71 billion. We don't know what the interest is like on that either. So it's not the government's plan is economically illiterate, especially when if you think these businesses are going to take a long time to get back on their feet, especially with the change to more online shopping and a lot of businesses having to make that change as well. So that's going to be interesting to see how these businesses bounce back, especially when, further on top of that, people's habits are going to be changing. The more people are working from home now, which means that less people are going to go out for lunch because you're at home. You don't need to go out for lunch. You can make lunch at home. And so what that means is, a lot of these sort of food joints are going to struggle a lot. And if they have to start paying back the loan soon, that's also going to make them struggle a lot, especially with the furlough scheme ending. So you're going to see, mass redundancies as well. As soon as that scheme ends, you're going to see unemployment go up. If you tie that into these small businesses that need a lot of help, you're talking 2.4 million people that rely on these small businesses. If they are not helped, these small businesses, then you're talking about huge amounts of unemployment, far higher than the Great Recession, far higher than this area here, which is scary times. which is absolutely terrifying. And so, yeah, if the government doesn't buck up their ideas and actually do something to help out small businesses, small and medium enterprises, then this economy is going to struggle through the next decade. And the Conservatives will have to take full responsibility for that. There are other ways to kickstart the economy. I'm recording another podcast with my friend Georgia, who has a background in economics, so subscribe for that if you're interested, because that should be coming out probably sometime next month, depending on how things go. So, let me know what you think in the comments below. If you're a small, medium enterprise owner, if you've taken out one of these loans, let me know what you think in the comments below. Let me know what you think about the repayments that you have to make. You may have to start making from next month. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, comment, share, subscribe. I'm on Discord, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.